Nomination day in the general election. Mr. Attlee hands in his deposit money at Stepney Town Hall. He has two opponents in this Limehouse division of Stepney, Mr. Edwards, Communist, and Mr. Woodard, Conservative. Mr. Herbert Morrison is contesting a new constituency this election, having moved from Hackney to East Lewisham. A candidate's deposit is £150. This is where Mr. Morrison deposits his, Lewisham Town Hall. East Lewisham is a former Conservative seat. And here's a Conservative stalwart, Mr. Brendan Bracken, the First Lord of the Admiralty, presenting himself for nomination at Paddington Town Hall. His opponent is a soldier, General Mason McFarlane. Labour generals and air vice-marshals are a new political portent. The candidates have been hard at it long before nomination, of course. 87 women are among those aspiring to become MPs in the next Parliament. Mrs. Mavis Tate, who was Conservative member for Frome in the last one, addresses factory workers in her constituency. And there's no lack of cheerful optimism about Dr. Edith Summerskill, who won West Fulham for Labour at a 1938 by-election. Besides being Member of Parliament, she's been a frequent member of the BBC Brains Trust. This candidate you've also heard in the same intellectual company, Donald McCulloch, Brains Trust question master, now answering questions on his own account as he battles to hold King's Lynn for the Conservatives. And how about Liberals? Sir William Beveridge at Berwick-on-Tweed is standing for the ever-valiant soul of liberalism and the Beveridge Report. In Scotland, Sir William Darling, former Lord Provost of Edinburgh, well-known speaker and brains truster, is contesting the northern division of his city for Conservatism. And no review of the situation in Scotland would be complete without a picture of Jimmy Maxton, beloved of all parties, but still very independent Labour. In southwest Hull, Mr. Richard Law canvasses for support in the Conservative cause. Like his father, Bonar Law, he's worked his way steadily up to the top. He's Minister of Education in Mr. Churchill's government. And what are they all saying? Well, some say one thing and some another. Movietone, of course, doesn't identify itself with any party. It merely reports what the candidates are saying and doing. Here's Mr. Bevan on housing.
We've drafted into London something like 140,000 people to grapple with this problem, and I'm quite convinced that if the state takes it on and do it properly, we ought to be doing it far quicker than we are at the present moment.
And what of Mr. Churchill? Well, in his own constituency at Woodford, he is not unopposed. A Northamptonshire farmer, Mr. Hancock, representing, as he says, the independent plain man, has popped up at the last moment and is preparing a whirlwind campaign to unseat the Prime Minister. This danger to his home front didn't deter Mr. Churchill from carrying out his prearranged plan for a countrywide election tour. This was the scene at Coventry. At Leamington, Mr. Eden's constituency, Mr. Churchill appeals for a strong government.
But I say, this is no time to mince measures and fool around with weak governments. Therefore, I say that if you do not give a strong vote to the National and Conservative government, which I have the honour to lead, if you do not do that, I think our affairs will fall into great confusion.
And the Prime Minister goes on through cheering crowds of his supporters to Birmingham, accompanied by Mr. Geoffrey Lloyd, Minister of Information and candidate for the Ladywood division. Of course, as an old campaigner, Mr. Churchill recognises that he has a stiff fight on his hands. He's put all his energy into this spectacular progress, which continued through the north and into Scotland. The old war horse, as Generalissimo Stalin called him, is certainly out on the war path in this, which means so much to him.